What happens when a system built on fear finally begins collapsing from the inside? That's exactly what the Season 1 finale of the Testaments delivers. Episode 10 doesn't just wrap up the season, it completely detonates the emotional, political, and psychological pressure that has been building since the premiere. Every lie comes crashing down. Every hidden agenda is exposed. And by the end of the episode, almost nobody inside Gilead is standing in the same place emotionally where they started. This finale is tense, heartbreaking, unpredictable, and honestly one of the strongest endings in the entire Handmaid's Tale universe. Because underneath all the chaos, this episode is really about one thing. Girls who were raised to obey finally deciding they would rather risk death than continue living inside silence. And once that realization spreads through Gilead, everything changes. Let's break down the entire finale. Episode 10 opens with absolute emotional devastation hanging over Ardua Hall. The atmosphere feels different immediately. Cold. Paranoid. Broken. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. The girls are terrified. The aunts are scrambling for control. The eyes are watching everything. And after Becca's arrest in Episode 9, it feels like the entire school is balancing on the edge of collapse. What makes the opening so effective is that the show slows everything down emotionally. Nobody screams. Nobody panics publicly. But you can feel fear sitting underneath every conversation. Especially for Agnes. Because Becca being taken away completely changes her understanding of Gilead forever. Up until now, Agnes still carried tiny illusions that obedience might protect people. That illusion dies in this episode. Completely. One of the most important parts of the finale is Agnes finally emotionally transforming into someone new. And honestly, this was coming for a long time. All season, Agnes has been trapped between fear and rebellion. She wanted safety. She wanted love. She wanted normalcy inside a world where none of those things can truly exist. But Episode 10 forces her to confront the truth. Gilead destroys people no matter how obedient they are. Becca obeyed. Hulda obeyed. The girls obeyed. And still they suffered. Still they were abused. Still they were treated like property. That realization fundamentally changes Agnes' mindset. And you can see it in the way she carries herself throughout the episode. There's less hesitation now. Less innocence. Even the cinematography frames her differently, almost like she's stepping out from the shadows emotionally. And honestly, this might be the first time Agnes truly feels like June's daughter. Not because she suddenly becomes reckless, but because she finally stops believing the system deserves her loyalty. But while Agnes is emotionally waking up, Daisy's entire undercover mission starts spiraling toward disaster. This episode puts Daisy under enormous pressure from the very beginning. Her accusation against Dr. Grove may have succeeded in exposing him, but it also brought dangerous attention directly onto her. And in Gilead, attention gets people killed. The eyes begin tightening their investigations around the school, and several scenes in the finale make it painfully clear that suspicions are spreading fast. Commander Weston especially becomes increasingly dangerous. Because unlike some of the other commanders, Weston is observant. He notices inconsistencies. He notices fear. And most importantly, he notices Daisy. The tension surrounding her identity becomes one of the strongest parts of the finale because you constantly feel like her cover could break at any second. Every conversation feels risky. Every interaction feels loaded. And the terrifying part is that Daisy herself knows she's slipping emotionally. She's no longer detached from the mission. She genuinely cares about these girls now, especially Agnes. And emotional attachment is the exact thing undercover operations are designed to avoid. Because emotions make people hesitate. Emotions make people reckless. Emotions make people tell the truth. One of the coolest aspects of the finale is how it deepens the larger resistance movement. Throughout the season, Mayday mostly operated in fragments, whispers, coded messages, hidden contacts, secret handlers. But Episode 10 starts pulling back the curtain. And what we learn is fascinating. Mayday isn't some perfectly organized rebellion. It's messy, desperate, improvised. People are constantly sacrificing themselves just to keep information moving. And honestly, that makes it feel more realistic. Resistance movements inside authoritarian systems are rarely clean, heroic operations. They're chaotic, dangerous, and filled with moral compromises. The finale really emphasizes how difficult Daisy's mission actually is. She's not a superhero. She's a terrified teenage girl trying to survive inside one of the most dangerous systems imaginable. And somehow, despite all that pressure, she keeps moving forward. But the most dangerous player in the finale might not be Daisy. It might be Aunt Lydia. This episode quietly confirms something huge. Aunt Lydia is no longer simply protecting Gilead. She's positioning herself for what comes after it. And honestly, that changes the entire way you view her character. Throughout the finale, Lydia spends almost every scene balancing impossible political tensions. The commanders want control. The eyes want punishment. The aunts want stability. And the girls are becoming increasingly unpredictable. Lydia realizes the system is cracking. And unlike everyone else, she's thinking several moves ahead. That's what makes her so dangerous. Because Lydia understands power better than almost anyone in the show. She knows information matters more than loyalty. She knows fear matters more than ideology. And most importantly, she knows collapsing systems become survival games. Several scenes strongly hint that Lydia has already begun preparing herself for that future. The hidden documents, the secrets she's collected, the way she manipulates punishments instead of simply enforcing them. All of it suggests Lydia is building leverage. Not for Gilead, for herself. And honestly, that might become critical in future seasons. Even though Becca spends much of the finale physically separated from the others, her presence dominates the story emotionally. Because her arrest shattered everyone, especially Agnes. And the show smartly uses that absence like a ghost hanging over Ardua Hall. Nobody says everything directly, but everyone feels it. The fear, the grief, the guilt, and perhaps most painfully, the realization that Becca may never come back. There's one especially heartbreaking moment where Agnes looks at spaces Becca used to occupy, and you can physically feel the loneliness crushing her. That emotional emptiness becomes incredibly important because it pushes Agnes further toward rebellion. Loss changes people, and Gilead keeps creating loss. The finale also deepens Garth's storyline in really interesting ways. After handing Becca over to the eyes, he's emotionally isolated from almost everyone around him. Agnes no longer fully trusts him. Daisy questions him. Even his own role inside the resistance feels unstable now. And honestly, that ambiguity makes him one of the show's most fascinating characters. Because Garth represents what survival inside Gilead actually looks like for many people. Compromise. Fear. Impossible choices. The finale never fully tells us whether he made the right decision regarding Becca. Because there probably wasn't a right decision. Only terrible options. And that moral complexity makes the story feel far more grounded. But then the finale delivers one of its biggest emotional turning points. Agnes and Daisy finally stop seeing each other as strangers. At the beginning of the season, Agnes and Daisy came from completely different worlds emotionally. Agnes was raised inside Gilead. Daisy understood the outside world. Agnes feared rebellion. Daisy embodied it. But by the finale, those worlds begin merging. And honestly, their relationship becomes the emotional core of the entire series. Because both girls are changing each other. Daisy teaches Agnes that another life is possible. Agnes teaches Daisy the emotional reality of growing up trapped inside Gilead. That connection matters deeply because authoritarian systems survive through isolation. They want people disconnected emotionally, distrustful, alone. But Agnes and Daisy finding genuine trust in each other threatens that structure completely. And the finale repeatedly emphasizes that idea. Real emotional connection becomes an act of rebellion itself. One thing the finale makes crystal clear is that Gilead's leadership is becoming increasingly unstable. The commanders no longer feel powerful. They feel nervous, paranoid, reactive. And that's a huge difference. Because authoritarian systems rely heavily on projecting certainty. The moment fear becomes visible at the top, instability spreads downward quickly. The investigations, the punishments, the pressure on Ardua Hall, all of it feels less like confidence and more like panic. And I think the finale intentionally wants viewers to understand that Gilead is weaker than it appears. Still dangerous, still brutal, but vulnerable. And vulnerability inside authoritarian systems often leads to even more violence. But the final moments of the episode may have secretly revealed the future of the entire series. The closing scenes of episode 10 are absolutely incredible because they don't give viewers easy emotional closure. Instead, they leave everything feeling uncertain, dangerous, unfinished. And that's exactly why they work. Agnes is changing. Daisy is risking exposure. Lydia is preparing for political war. The girls are beginning to question the system openly. And Mayday's influence is spreading deeper into Gilead itself. For the first time, it genuinely feels like rebellion is no longer isolated. It's becoming contagious. That's terrifying for Gilead, because once fear stops controlling people completely, authoritarian systems start losing their strongest weapon. And honestly, the finale feels less like an ending and more like the beginning of something much larger. Not just escape, not just survival, revolution. Season 1 of the Testament succeeds because it understands something important. The scariest part of Gilead was never just its violence. It was how normal people slowly adapted to it emotionally. But this finale flips that idea. Now we're watching people slowly stop adapting, stop accepting, stop obeying. And that makes episode 10 one of the most emotionally powerful chapters in the franchise so far. Because underneath all the politics and tension, this finale is ultimately about young women realizing they deserve more than survival. They deserve freedom. And once that idea takes root, Gilead may already be doomed. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more of the Testament's breakdowns, theories, and Season 2 predictions. Because after this finale, the war against Gilead has officially begun.